I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're tackling one of the most controversial topics in American politics today. We're examining a profound book. It is called How Donald Trump Plans to Steal the Election and Destroy Democracy, The Resurgence of Donald Trump. In it, the author, Edward Black, examines Trump's strategies, legal troubles, and the high-stakes battles for the presidency. With democracy on the line, this book takes a deep dive into the tactics, consequences, and potential fallout of President Trump's political resurgence. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Edward, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
This is a terrific book. Obviously, the election is over, and we know what happened. We know that President Trump is now President Trump once again. Let's get your latest reading on his first couple of weeks in office.
Well, whenever I wrote the book, I kind of outlined, as you spoke about in your introduction, what his plan was once he became president. I really feel that he's pushing forward to basically do away with democracy, to destroy it as we know it here in the United States. And as a result, you asked me, okay, well, what is going on for the last couple of weeks? You're seeing what's happening. Mm-hmm. I mean, exactly what I spoke about in my book, I feel is exactly what he's doing. He is unraveling the bastions of our democratic machinery, if you will. It seems like we are pushing forward to become more isolated as a country with these talks about tariffs with Canada, tariffs with Mexico, tariffs with China. Whenever he was running for president, he said on day one he would end the Ukraine war. Well, that certainly hasn't happened. Mm-hmm. If anything, it's just going to cause more devastation over there because he has suspended all foreign aid for the next 90 days. You see what he did in offering the individuals that currently work for the government, over 2 million seasoned government workers, offered them early retirement buyouts, if you will. But if I wouldn't trust Donald Trump to buy out my candy cart, much less millions of people's worth of retirement funds or salaries until September, whenever it is he's saying. So we're seeing exactly what I spoke about in my book.
Do you think it was a mistake for Joe Biden to pull out and have Kamala Harris run instead?
Boy, that's a $99 question, Logan, to be honest with you. What ended up happening in that first debate that Trump and President Biden had, Biden came across, he had a bad day, and the Democrats panicked. Mm-hmm. Was it possible for him to recover from that? It's very possible, but even as a Democrat, I had to feel some sympathy towards what he was going through right there on that stage at that particular moment. I just felt that if we could have a replacement, it would be great. Mm-hmm. Now, as much as I admire Kamala Harris for her role in the Biden administration and her as a person, she was not the right person. And, it's easy to say after the fact, Logan, she was not the person that should have stepped up and taken his place. She was the obvious choice because she was vice president. But running Donald Trump against another woman,
And also, she never ran well even in the Democratic primaries. So even among her own party, when it was her running in 2020, she didn't do very well. She was in last place. So that might have been a mistaken strategy. I personally feel Biden had a better chance of beating Donald Trump than
Oh, I do.
Kamala
Yes,
Harris. Yeah,
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
yeah.
I think it was very possible, Logan, for him to be able to recover from that disastrous debate performance. Um, you
And
know,
Trump had a bad debate when he debated Kamala Harris.
he
She
did.
wiped the
He
floor with
did.
him, right?
She did. She
Yeah,
did. She came. I mean, if that was Joe Biden on the stage against Donald Trump instead of Kamala Harris, Trump would have been finished.
yeah.
It would not have, would not have been much of a race. And I think, to be honest with you, Joe Biden would have carried the, 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 the
The swing
Michigan,
states.
yeah, the swing states, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Of course, being from Pennsylvania, I
Hmm.
think he still had that chance. Michigan, Pennsylvania, possibly even North Carolina.
Yeah,
Um, so his chances with the electoral map were much better, I believe, than Miss Harris's chances.
yeah. So what do Democrat-leaning voters do now, or other Americans who might be concerned about the election of President Trump?
Well, the Democrats are going to have to continue to hold Trump's feet to the fire, and then the John Q. public, the people that voted for President Trump, are going to have to take a step back from this 16-ounce cup of Kool-Aid that they keep drinking every morning, and they're going to have to begin looking at him as the individual that he currently is. He wasn't elected to office to take back the Panama Canal. He wasn't elected to office to rename the Gulf of Mexico. He wasn't elected to office to take over Greenland. He wasn't elected to office to make Canada the 51st state. Those were not things that he was elected for. And then all of a sudden, this is exactly what he's talking about. And one more point that I would like to make. Just in the last 48 hours, he's talking about the issues that are going on in South Africa. Why, pardon my French, but why in the hell?
I guess because of Elon Musk. I guess Elon
Exactly.
Musk has an
No,
interest there,
that's
right?
exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. Elon
Yeah,
Musk is from South Africa. And then all of a sudden, we are concerned about what's going on in South Africa?
yeah,
No.
right. Yeah, it's interesting. What do you make of his cabinet? I mean, his cabinet has some controversial picks. We have Pete Hegseth, who has been accused of drinking too heavily, abusing women, even by his own mother. And that's who's going to be the Secretary of Defense.
I don't know any of these people really well, to be honest with you, Logan. I am not, as you probably can tell, I am not a Fox News network aficionado. I do not turn it on first thing in the morning and watch it until I go to bed at night. That's just because I just don't believe the channel gives me any kind of good information. So I don't know much about Hegseth until he was nominated. But
Yeah.
based on everything that came out about him, how did this happen? Where did he come from to be Secretary of Defense?
I don't know. He was a soldier, but he certainly wasn't a commander. I mean, he wasn't a
My father
general on
was a
that
soldier.
level. I mean, so it is an unusual choice. So maybe he'll be leaning on generals to give him advice. Who knows? Let me ask you this before we leave you today. What do you hope readers take away from your book?
I truly hope that they understand, because if you had a chance to at least just browse through it and kind of pick up some highlights here and there, one thing that we have all, I think, begun realizing is that whenever Donald Trump speaks about anything, if his lips are moving, he's lying, and and that's an old adage that we can kind of lean on, so to speak.
Yeah.
he hasn't spoken truth to really much of anything. All the things that he talked about, one of his press conferences, he had this big table full of groceries that he was talking about in front of Bedminster, talking about that was key on his agenda: lowering inflation, lowering food prices. And like I said, it wasn't renaming the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. Exactly. The
I
agenda
mean, if he
seems to have shifted. A lot of international concerns right now and fewer domestic concerns than the voters who voted for him might like. Great insights about his first few weeks in office, and of course, great insights and analysis in your book. It's called How Donald Trump Plans to Steal the Election and Destroy Democracy, The Resurgence of Donald Trump. The book, of course, was written before the election, but there's
Yeah,
still a lot of great insight in this book that will give you the game plan, the thinking, and the strategies of the man who was just elected president of the United States. And if you are opposed to his policies, it might give you a lot of great fuel for thought. And even if you are in favor of his policies, you might want to reflect upon this man that has been outlined so carefully by author Edward Black. Edward, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to perhaps bumping into you again somewhere down the line.
That would be great. Looking forward to it. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.